Hind Khoudary joins us now live from Gaza City. Hind, this latest attack, or some of the latest attacks, hitting an area full of displaced Palestinians. What has happened to them? Where do people go after these attacks?
Well, first of all, it was definitely a very tough, bloody night where 8 Palestinians were killed. But they do not have a place to go to. They have no shelters. They have no safe place. And most of what was targeted, actually all the targets that took place yesterday were without any prior warning. And the sound of the explosion is actually terrifying. But when people panic, they want to run away to a safe place. But here in Gaza, there's no place safe to seek refuge to. And this has been happening for over the past 3 years. So no safe places, everywhere is an attack. Like, for example, yesterday there were attacks in Gaza City, very close to the seaport. There were attacks in Khan Younis. There were attacks in el-Balah. So we're talking about a series of attacks in different areas across of the Gaza Strip, and people do not have any place to go to. And again, this is supposed to be a ceasefire where no airstrikes should be falling on top of the Palestinians.
So, Hind, given that sense of desperation about the devastation that they live in every day, what then is the feeling amongst Palestinians about this so-called ceasefire, given the news that we are now supposed to be in the next step of the peace plan?
So we talked to a lot of people here, to old men, women, children, teenagers, and they all don't believe this is going to happen. So people were promised here since October that 2025, that it's a ceasefire, no fighting, no airstrikes, the Rafah crossing is going to open, more humanitarian aid is going to enter, and there were a lot of promises, but none of these promises have been fulfilled by the Israeli authorities. So people here definitely don't believe that this ceasefire is going to take place. And if it's going to take place, this means there's going to be change on the ground where people are going to feel it. For example, yesterday, as this news about the ceasefire was circulating, people were trying to seek a safe place as explosions did not stop, and the explosions were very, very loud and they were shaking. And this shows that despite the fact that there is news circulating about the ceasefire, what's happening on the ground is totally different. So people lost hope. They're waiting, they're hopeful, but they do not guarantee that this ceasefire is going to be guaranteed.
Hind Khoudary joining us from Gaza City. Thank you. Well, for more on this story, we're joined now by Dr. James Smith from al-Mawasi in Gaza. He's an emergency physician, and this is his 3rd time in Gaza. He was last there in June of 2024. Doctor, thank you very much for joining us today. What have you noticed since 2024 and your return to Gaza now?
Well, Anna, it's exactly as Hind describes. I think that people have lost hope. They are extremely skeptical of any of the political narratives that circulate in the media. What I notice here on the ground, I mean, the conditions that people have been forced to live in are just abysmal. More than 1 million people living in flimsy shelters. We're talking about tarpaulin and basic metal or wooden structures. The water and sanitation systems, I mean, it's just dire. While there is some food entering into Gaza, the nutritional quality is extremely poor. We're still diagnosing children with malnutrition on a weekly basis at our facility. I mean, it's catastrophic, frankly, beyond comprehension.
Yeah, you talk about the need of people and the conditions that they're living in. Help us understand, because I think when we talk about healthcare in Gaza and then we have stories about the attacks that are going on by Israel, we tend to, I think, assume that the people having treatment have been directly impacted by those attacks, but there is a much broader range of healthcare needs. Tell us a bit about what you see in terms of the devastation, in terms of the healthcare needs for people who have been displaced for so long and what that looks like in an everyday sense.
Absolutely. I mean, patients, of course, are being directly targeted in the hospitals, in their homes, on the streets. The WHO has reported more than or approximately 1,000 attacks on healthcare since October 2023. That is a gross underestimation of the scale of violence. At least 28 attacks since January of this year. That's during the so-called ceasefire period. Of course, Hind has made very clear that there is no ceasefire in Gaza. The impact on patients is there are several dimensions here. I mean, if you deprive people of access to basic services while at the same time targeting them, while at the same time inflicting violence against them, you see this exponential increase in health needs and no access to the services required to care for them.
When you talk about the access to healthcare, we saw a recent attack on a warehouse full of medical supplies. What do you think when you hear things like that, knowing that that means those supplies are obviously no longer available to you, a doctor who is supposed to be trying to treat these people?
It's horrific. I mean, this was an attack very close to Al-Aqsa Hospital in the early hours of yesterday morning. It was 1.5 kilometers away from where we're staying, but the building shook when the strike hit. We know that the systematic targeting of the healthcare system is a clear strategy of the Israeli occupation. We know that Israel is able to amplify its violence against the Palestinian people several-fold when it attacks doctors, nurses, these medical warehouses. The healthcare system in Gaza has been systematically undermined over the course of the last 3 years. When we look at aid entering Gaza since May of last year, only 1.6% is for the health sector. The Ministry of Health earlier this year reported that 50% of essential medicines are in critically short supply. So if you target a medical warehouse like this, destroying medical consumables, destroying medications, of course, targeting people within the immediate vicinity, killing and injuring people in their tents, in the tents adjacent to the warehouse. I mean, the impact is massive, and it's far, far beyond the immediate violence inflicted by the airstrike alone.
Yeah, and James, what does it mean for you doing your job then? I mean, do you turn and open the cupboard and there just is nothing in there?
Look, I mean, at our clinic yesterday, we have patients walking and waiting for several hours to be seen, complaining of severe pain, a whole host of symptoms and medical complaints, and we're only able to give them 2 or 3 paracetamol tablets. There are other medications that are not available. There are some tablets available on the private market, but no one has the money to pay for them. I mean, it's just impossible. You know, that there is no functional healthcare system in Gaza. And we must cut through the rhetoric that Israel is presenting to a wider public and the political class. And we have to be absolutely clear about what is being done here, which is slow genocide, the strangulation of the healthcare system with immediate and intergenerational impacts on the health and well-being of the Palestinian people.
Dr. James Smith joining us from al-Mawasi in Gaza. Thank you very much for your time.